This topic is called mining the loop, mining the content loop specifically. As always, 2 loops, 90 minutes. Act 1, I teach. The next act, we talk. Both me and Hank will have a little bit of a brief conversation. We'll set up his background, his career. We'll also get into Stanify and the company that he helms and how it might be impactful to you as well as the market. And then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A, and we'll also do a homework assignment between me and Jeremy and Simon. We're going to make sure we're also doing the homework and that we're filming it and loading it up into Circle so you can see our homework and kind of track along with it. And we're going to add a lot more of those quick hitting instructional tutorial videos on there because there's some basic things, some very, very basic things like LinkedIn data scraping that we can teach you all that doesn't require an entire 90-minute session. Once me and Jeremy have a time to get together after I'm done with this whole like ballet sprint downtown Nashville, me and him will get together. We'll film some videos. We'll put it up on the Circle community so you can see that as well. Without further ado, let's jump into the topic. We've got Hank on the line. Hank, just wave to the crew. I'll set you up with your little bio a little bit later. But Hank is a good friend of mine. We've been friends for now nearly 20 years. We went to graduate school together, and we've just been tracking each other's career throughout. We've never actually worked at the same company, but we've lived in the same cities at various times. I've just been fascinated with his thirst for entrepreneurship and the types of companies he's been able to build and sell and exit, and then kind of go found other companies and stuff like that. Our careers have also really kind of intertwined in terms of the themes that we've been working across: very heavy social media, heavy digital, and now heavy AI. So let me rewind the clock back. I've been doing this for about 20 years, particularly when it comes to mining comment sections of social media and turning it into forward momentum on behalf of my brands, across me and the teams I've worked on and stuff like that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to set up some of those examples. You can see that this is not just something for the enterprise level Fortune 500 brand. It's something that anybody can do, whether it's you and your personal brand, your small business, or a Fortune 500 brand. Area of the loop ladder we'll be discussing primarily is alpha and beta. It's really finding an alpha loop, which is a one question asked, one answer given, that kind of initial circle that we're talking about when you're getting into conversation, into a beta springs. How do we move it into something that's recursive and something you constantly are feeding and learning from and gaining education from? That's kind of the activity we'll be talking about right now in getting into that compounding momentum. I pulled this stat from Hank's literature that he passed along to me. I thought it was fascinating, although I'm not very surprised. And that is that 90% of all comments on social media go unanswered. That's insane. But I believe that every comment has the ability to be a closed loop. I think we can take these comments, we can explore them and continue them on. And there's different ways we can continue them on. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But it's by far the cheapest and the richest signal that you're ever going to get. And I'll show you some ways that we've done that in the past. Framework that I've used in the past is this idea of passive, captive, and active. It's part of the attention framework that I've preloaded into the AI operator. If you're ever interested in building a strategy around this, where you're building an overarching marketing strategy and you want to make sure that you're tuning your radar screens to active attention, just go into the AI operator, drop a prompt in there, see what it develops on your behalf. This will most likely orient you around the idea of farming comments in social media. That's one of the ways that we tend to active attention. A good example of a macro loop, Budweiser, I'll give you an instance here. For about 18 months between 2016 and 2018, my Budweiser team was able to achieve 1 billion impressions. And a lot of that success was due to us harvesting insight from viral content. Of course, we had to start somewhere with viral hit. The first one we had was in 2016 when the Cubs won the World Series. We wound up filming a video because we knew they were going to the World Series. Before they even won it, we set out with an ambitious goal to try to create a video where Harry Carey was calling the last out of the World Series. And if you know your baseball, you know that Harry Carey died like 15 years before that moment. It was a feat of engineering. We actually had to go through all of the voice archives of Harry Carey calling games against certain types of teams. And we had to match it with actual in-game play from the Cubs Indians World Series. But the result was Cubs fans and sports fans worldwide crying at their desk the next morning when people were talking around the water cooler about that video, because we were able to capture an emotion or a sentiment that you just don't capture every single day. And one of the things that we noticed in those comments was that it wasn't necessarily about the fact that we did this cool video, What we did was we had Cubs fans talking to each other within our content about the fact that they were remembering their dead relatives that got them into Cubs baseball in the first place. That video made, and Harry Carey specifically, made them think about their dads, their uncles, their brothers, whoever it was that got them into baseball, and brought, obviously a lot of positive feelings to the situation. We took that insight over the course of 400,000 Facebook comments, because that's how many that video generated. And we started pouring that insight into future content that we did around sports. The next opportunity we had was with Derek Jeter when he retired 6 months later, not retired, but when his jersey was retired at Yankee Stadium. They wanted to film a Cubs style video. So we took that insight about that particular person getting somebody into baseball, or what they meant to a city, what they meant to a franchise. And we created this Buds for Two, which was their number. We essentially retired the number 2 all over the city of New York and created a viral video out of that. So that created another 500,000 comments. And we took insight from that and then parlayed it into Dale Jr.'s retirement. And then we actually took the comments from there and we translated them into the real world outside of sports lore and sports fame, and crossed it over into military appreciation videos from Memorial Day and July 4th. We created stuff around Budweiser being an iconic American brand, but we were able to take the meaning and the sentiment out of the comments and roll it into future activities. But you're probably wondering, what do you do if you're not Budweiser and you don't have like massive budgets to create viral videos? Well, you do whatever you can take. Now, this is another example of a large company, but you don't have to be Audi to do this. At the very beginning of my career, there was no way to measure social media ROI, right? There was no ad units, there was no nothing. It was just 2008, and we were, putting stuff out on Twitter. It was called Twitter back in the day. Twitter had only been around for a year at this point. We were using it because we knew the future of communication was headed to these platforms. And one of the things my team did to really just prove our worth, right? That this brand was paying our social media team X amount of dollars. We wanted to be able to be like the other agencies and teams in the mix and be able to show ROI. We used Twitter to find distressed BMW customers and then point them into the DMs, where we would then broker deals for them to go into Audi dealership and get the right trim level they wanted with the right rate they wanted. We were using it as a sniper. We were sniping off negative spirals or negative loops that customers were signaling online. We were intercepting those people, directing them to a sale for our brand, and stealing customers using social media, which was pretty awesome. And our CMO loved us for that. I think we did probably 15 cars a year that we were able to steal from BMW. And if you just play the math out and the lifetime value of a customer in the luxury segment, you can see how much money that is. Another example, not a Fortune 500 company. This is probably a little bit more close to the radar screen of some of you in the room. Although this is a brand that people do know across the country. It's a luxury hair clip manufacturer named Deborah Pagani. Our team over at the Sasha Group, a little bit later in my career, that's when we were working on the small to mid-sized company sides. Of course, still a little bit big, but not the most massive brand in the world. Went into a Kylie Jenner Instagram post and found the top 10 most influential commenters and got into their DMs and offered a free hair clip. These hair clips cost $200, so not cheap. Those influencers that they're not massive influencers, but they are influential commenters. These women probably had 100,000, 200,000 followers in their own right. But because they took our free hair clip and started talking about it, it generated over $1 million of sales for Deborah Pagani, just because we didn't do anything proactive. We didn't put out an ad. We didn't put out a video that says, look at us. We literally went into Kylie Jenner's Instagram post, found the top people that were the most influential people talking to Kylie Jenner, and offered them hair clips and generated $1 million. Me, myself, I went out before we started this cohort and I started talking about my weight loss journey. And I created a post that was based on a viral format that I'd found the day before. It generated 25,000 impressions and it created over 100 comments on my wall. I'm thinking in 2006 Facebook terms, but on my post, it created 100 comments. And at that moment, I didn't really plan for it to do that, but I stopped everything I was doing. I pushed off all my meetings. And I spent all day long commenting back to every single person that had talked to me about my weight loss journey. And what my idea there was, let me give away the prompt to as many people as I can, but I'm only going to do it if they actually meet me in my DMs and allow me to either have their email or their phone number and I can send them the prompt, and I also get their data as a result. I wound up sending out my prompt to about 50 people in that instance on one day based on one post. And it hasn't necessarily led to sales in this cohort, for instance, because there's not a single one of you people here that came to this because of that. But that's 50 opportunities for me to go back in at any point over the next 6 months and talk to those people about their weight loss journeys and possibly seat future cohorts, possibly sell books whenever I release my book. It's just a good way for me to create momentum for my business. And I've already started to see, funny enough, since that moment, there's been a handful of people that have reached back out to me. They've talked to me about their progress, and they're already changing their own lives. I've had one guy that was a former client of mine named Adam down in Australia. He started this about a month ago. He's already he started this journey. He could fit into a tuxedo for a wedding, and he's already there. He's already lost the weight that he needed to get into the tuxedo, and off we go. That's an idea of how you can use something that creates a certain amount of attention and translate that into momentum for yourself, for your business, or whatever. But one important thing to note is that the results aren't always going to be revenue. It's going to be followers. It's going to be awareness. It's going to be referrals. It could be my next cohort. It could be your next cohort. It could be the book that these people will buy, like I already mentioned. But most importantly, it's momentum. It's really hard to get people to buy things from you if you're not creating momentum for yourself first. Take that as you will. I think that's something that most of us should be doing automatically, whether it's for our brands or for our personal brands. What me and Hank are going to be discussing today, we're going to try to do the Vulcan mind meld, where we start talking about my instincts, but then also the engine that his team has built to make comments and comment mining scalable for businesses. We'll also get into Hank's background a little bit and start to try to figure out what really brought him to this space where he decided to really plant his flag. But that's what we're going to do here. I would also let you guys all know that you guys all have comment sections too. What you do with your comments is up to you, but I would just suggest that you start to reframe the way you think about them. And instead of thinking about them as something that takes your attention away from priority activities within your business, start thinking about them as a gold mine that gives you a reason to post more content. One quick case study that Hank sent over to me, we had to redact the brand name because they're not in the business of public disclosure, but there was a brand case study from last November where they were able to tend to over 8,400 comments, read and reroute. They processed that many comments. They engaged with 4,400 people. They were able to auto hide over 3,400 comments and actually save the community management staff on that brand over 400 hours of their time. They also are able to very easily kind of segment out spam versus queries and positive and negative sentiment. They're also able to get down to the actual complaint and query level and let people know, or let the folks on the marketing team know on the other, or the customer service team on the other end, understand exactly what topics people are talking about related to their content and their marketing, and then give actual visual cues, being able to bring in some semantic language, being able to bring in some qualitative research about how people are feeling about things like their advertising, the product, supply chain, and their content. And that's that. Hank, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I kind of gave everybody a little bit of a preview that me and you have some history together. Walk us back, because I think your experience, obviously coming out of the VC Brand Center, was way different than mine. But I think the team here, which is comprised of a lot of small business owners, folks that are entrepreneurs by nature, I think they'd be really interested in seeing how you zagged right out of the gate and how you decided not to take the traditional corporate America script.
It's a good tee up. I graduated from the Brand Center in 2009. I think you were 2008. I was a year behind you.
Yes.
And that was such a critical couple of years, because back then iPhone came out 2008, pretty sure, and started the big
07.
07. And everybody started to have them in 2008. And I was like, man, people are watching videos on that little screen. What? That's crazy. But then social media really hadn't infused into brands much at all. I came out of Brand Center. 2009 was a terrible year to get a job in advertising. The financial crisis was on. Nobody was getting jobs. I did get one, though, at McKinney in North Carolina. I wound up working on Nationwide Insurance, Sherwin-Williams, Coldwell Banker. They just won Nationwide Insurance. I got a bunch of great brands right out of the gate as a strategist. And I got to go out and, understand what makes people do what they do. What's it like to be you? Why are you buying Geico instead of Nationwide? Whatever. That was my role in the agency. And I was asking the brands as the agency, like, what are you guys doing on Twitter? And they're like, nothing. And I'm like, why not? And they go, well, because it's like, just what I'm doing right now. And I was like, no. It's and it was in our lives. Like we were younger than the executives, younger, we were probably late 20s, and these people in their 40s and 50s, they looked at all social like just noise and mess and silly stuff. Anyways, I spent the first year of my advertising career like bothering all the brands about social and be like, no, you need to get on this thing, Twitter, like for sure. And that was just the one that was easy to talk about. Instagram wasn't around yet. That was like 2012, I think. I found my time in advertising was this transformational period that most of the industry didn't know was transformational. I was in such a hurry to try and get these brands on board. And they were like, no, we can't be a personality online. Are you kidding me? No, we're going to do the TV ads. Can you put the TV ad on the Twitter? And I was like, God, I didn't make it very long. I wound up leaving advertising in 2011, almost 2012. I'd moved out to LA to work on Lexus. Got an offer to come on to the digital team at the time. They separated them and called it digital strategy, which I thought was stupid. Strategy, everything's digital. Instagram came up and I was like, here we go. And they're like, no. And I was like, God, I need to be moving at the speed of culture. And the ad agency world, in my view, was a step or two behind or 10. And it was making ads were the interruptions to the things you're doing, not the things. The Instagram, the Twitter, the Airbnb, whatever was new with culture, tech plus culture. And I got obsessed with that space, jumped out into the startup world, I guess is what you would call that. And it's been 15, 16 years now. I haven't looked back since. Also haven't slept since, and haven't made a good salary since either. So there's some trade-offs, but I love the space I get into, and you and I have stayed contemporaries all along, and I've loved seeing the difference between working with global brands on the agency side or consulting and being out in the wild trying to like invent new things. It's been crazy to see how separate they were until right now with Stanify. I'd be happy to transition into the Stanify story. Or did you have any other questions before jumping into that?
Real quick before you jump into that, talk to me a little bit about like the world that we both inherited or occupied in that day and age, and how brands were thinking about social media at the time, and how maybe there's similarities or differences when it comes to AI in 2026. Because I see some, but I would be very curious to see how you think about those two eras and the early days of them.
Sure. There's good news and bad news, or the hard news and the exciting news. On the downside, back in like 2007, 8, 9, almost every conversation I would have with brand stakeholders, any businesses, was like all this face, like, oh my God, you got to like sit there and like type things and like be in the conversation, like smiley faces and stuff. It just seemed like a total obligation. Where's the ROI? Everybody would say, where's the ROI? And you got to hire some social media person and all of that. How do you get the payback for them? So that was like social media 1.0, if that was the era for businesses and social, was what an obligation. Okay, fine. And then they started to trickle in and be on these social platforms. And then probably around 2012, got to think about what markers there were. But like when Instagram came up and got like 100 million users in the first like 6 months, it fundamentally changed everything again. You started to see brands and businesses that were like, all right, we're on. Okay. Most of them writ large were like, God, this is so much work. Can we just like automate some of this stuff? Like put posts on a calendar, post scheduling, just automatically schedule them for the next month, just so the content's out there. And maybe some like social listening, like keywords and stuff, just to be listening to whatever's happening out there. And that was, Buffer and Hootsuite were big early companies there. Quick automation of posting and listening. And then Sprinkler and Sprout Social came up and got to the agencies. And both those companies IPO'd, not in each other's lanes. Sprinkler was mostly like big brands, social listening and all the automation stuff. And then Sprout Social was more e-com focused, and they're still around today. We'll get to that kind of. But anyways, that was 2.0, was social media automated and made, at least you're there and the brands are all showing up, sort of. For the past 15 years, that's been it with technology. Just automate this stuff and just get it done over there. And I'm doing this because where we are now is the 3.0 era, where there wasn't technology that allowed more than automation in the posting, and then like bot, engagement in the comments part, which was very robotic, very dumb, like literally just no intelligence in it. There wasn't much value in like, thank you for your comment, we will be in touch, or something like that. It was just no value to the user because it wasn't unique to what they wanted. So there wasn't anything to be done. And it sat there like that for the past like 15 years. And now we're in the new era, which is when you add intelligence to that and scale it, every customer can be interacted with in exactly the way they want to be interacted with in the brand voice at scale and all that, which we'll talk about with Stanify. But the good news in all of this is the adoption curves are getting steeper and faster. Way back in like Web 1.0, it took years for companies to start to get a website or whatever. And then with mobile, it took fewer years for them to get onto it. And then social took fewer years. And then now with AI, it's because there is web and because there is mobile and because there is social and podcasts everywhere and everything, everybody knows everything all at once. The adoption curve is super steep. So all the brands are like flying into this space now, which I think is really good because progress is happening faster. It's also quite hectic, but we're having a blast with it. And that's what we're experiencing with Stanify, just a year old. We've had crazy engagement and traction with brands, and happy to tell that story, but not until you're ready.
So one more question before we go on to that, just to kind of create some tension or bring in an element from this the side. One thing that I'm seeing right now is there's a massive kind of backlash or undercurrent of people talking about AI slop or AI generated content. And so now we are in an era where everybody can ship everything and they can do it in minutes. But along with that, you've got like the peanut gallery that talks about everything in a very negative way. If you're a brand competing in 2026, I fear that a lot of people are going to miss the boat because they don't want to be associated with the agentic or the automated side of things. Talk to me about the danger that you think brands are going to, not the danger, but I'd say talk to me about the opportunity cost for that line of thinking.
Yeah, man. Probably the most important principle that we're reminded of every day is with great power comes great responsibility. And what everyone has now with these agentic tools is a lot of power. As soon as anybody spends an hour or two messing around with any of them, Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, you start to be like, whoa. And that's a lot of power in there, but that's also now it's responsibility time, which means don't be irresponsible with what you're doing with that. It's literally like magic wand or magic staff or something that like, don't just go zapping around everywhere. You need to understand what it is that you have so that you can have the output that you want and engineer that. If you don't, you'll get slop. If you cut corners and go too fast, it's not good. And it could do damage. But I tell you what though, even that is better than not doing anything. I really, I don't want to say fear for, but I feel bad for the businesses who are going to be almost like Luddites about this, rah, 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 and find all the reasons not to get into it. They'll be left further behind than any other revolution era of the past, web and mobile and social. This one is going to be, you'll be in the dust real fast because of how fast things are moving. If you don't take care and responsibility, at least you'll get in the game and learn quickly when slop doesn't do what you want it to and understand how to use these tools better. The learning curves for all of us are really fast now. And by the way, you can ask your language model, how do I make this not slop? And it'll help you with PhD level intelligence. Like there's no excuse for anyone not to jump in and really understand the power of this stuff now.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple instances where when me and some of these cohort members sit down and we just get into the prompting, it's kind of wild because we wind up spending like 40 minutes writing the prompting, which seems like overkill considering you only have a 60-minute time frame and you're spending 40 minutes doing the tooling up front. But then on the back end, it just makes the output that much more impactful. And you start to get an idea of like, okay, I need to think about building in all of the overrides and all the functionality in advance to get it to work exactly how I need it to work.
Really quick on that, the big thing there that took me quite a while to learn personally, and our team has got this, what's going on right now is AI is great. I mean, mind-blowingly great at the middle part of a process. At the very beginning, you have to think of what needs to be done in the world for your business or for whatever. Sure. You need to think of that as a creative human with your amazing brain. And then AI will do the middle part great. And then at the end, your human brain needs to judge whether that is what you wanted to be able to do what it was that you set out. Those two things are extremely human and should be, but the better each one of those are, the better the middle part will be. If you can't skip on the beginning or the end because you get into slop territory. Yeah, it could be, 80% of the time is on the setup because the 20% will happen pretty quickly.
Nice. Let's get into Stanify a little bit. So when we were last together, I feel like it was out in LA when you were working on another tech platform called Gigster. And that was in the kind of real estate rental kind of space, very similar to like an Airbnb kind of model, two-way marketplace. But then over the past couple of years, you resurfaced into really jumping into the AI space full force and getting into Stanify. I remember when you first called me and told me about what you and your co-founders were doing. You were so excited about changing the world one comment at a time kind of thing. Talk about why you made the jump from Gigster over to Stanify and like how things have been going over there. Like what's on deck for Stanify in the near future?
Yeah, for sure. So the quicker version, and we can dig into this if you want. Gigster is still around, Gigste. It's a marketplace for production locations. Airbnb for film shoots. If you want to film your commercial at a mansion with an infinity pool and white marble walls, you can search by keyword and it'll show you the location. There was no platform like that in 2016 when we started it. And it's still running. The business is still going. It's got tremendous headwinds because of AI. Why would you need a physical location ever again? There's some stuff that company is doing, and I'm still advising the founder. I was a co-founder of it, but still helping them with the revolution that's going on with AI. I had to think wider, broader in my own life pursuits and look at what I'm the most passionate about. And before Gigster in 2014, 15, I had started a different company called Vitamin, VYTMN, not around anymore. I don't even think the website is up or anything. We were automating in social media what you should be doing as a business. I had left the agency world. I couldn't get the brands to move fast enough for the space. And I was like, I know what you should be doing. And I was like, well, nobody's doing it. You need to be following people every day. And then if they don't follow back, unfollow most of them because they looked at you and they don't care. And that'll build your following on Twitter and these kind of things. So even with LinkedIn, it worked back then. Follow, unfollow. You need to be liking people's comments. They get a notification that your brand liked their thing. Then they come over and look at you. It's attention. Go get some attention. We automated follow, unfollow. We automated liking, data mining your targets. If you're a sunglasses company, go get Oakley's 2 million Twitter followers, scrape all of their usernames, and then programmatically, we set up automation to go follow, unfollow all those people and start liking their posts. And they start to come over and guess what? They'd look at your sunglasses and then they would buy them. We automated on social media platforms, Twitter and LinkedIn mostly. Facebook had put up tremendous walls against this automation, which was a bellwether to what everybody else wound up doing. Because they wanted
everybody to build their own custom stores inside of Facebook, which was frustrating.
Right. And Zuck and all them were ahead of the curve a little bit there and trying to build their fortress. But Twitter was wide open. You could do whatever. Their API, which was the way that you could automate on the platform, just a production interface for software. You could do 1,000 actions a day. If you were a user, 1,000 somethings with the API, and you wouldn't get dinged for automation or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
1,000's a lot. A human would probably do 100, like this, comment on that, or whatever, follow this person. But the threshold was 1,000, and we were like, okay. And we cranked everybody to full 990 a day, and just running like crazy. Anyways, longer story shortened, we had 3,000-4,000 Twitter accounts running at max full steam, going out and making a lot of noise on social. Noise. A lot of follow, unfollow, a lot of liking, a lot of add to list, a lot of this stuff. And it was bot.
A lot of bot behavior,
action. And we built a bot farm. We would build 20 Twitter accounts that were you have a sunglass company, Sunglass Lovers, Sunglass Anonymous, Sunglass Freaks. And those would go out and talk to everyone about your cool sunglasses brand. Your secret militia army that was not directly associated with your brand. It was third-party authorities that were just sharing an automated feed of sunglasses content. It was low quality. I'm just saying all this to let you know, I did We were, I don't want to say careless. There wasn't more to be done. That was the maximum that tech would allow, but we went hard at it and we built up millions of reach. We could trend topics on Twitter if we wanted to. If we had all of our accounts say the same thing all at once, hashtag Quattrone, you could be a trending topic.
Let's do that.
That was cool. But remember, I'm the guy who just said with great power comes great responsibility. And we did not respect the desires of the platforms to be able to see ahead of time, what if they don't like this and they change things? And they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They dropped the threshold. We didn't know that at the time. All we knew was on March 25th, 2015, all 3,500 accounts were suspended overnight all at once. And I woke up and we were making 100,000 a month in revenue or something, 100, wow. 110, and cash flow positive team of 12. We were great. We were having a great time. And it was working. The traffic that would hit your website from Vitamin working was high quality because we'd pulled the signal from the comments. Right. It would convert to a sale or a sign up at an average of 10%, which was nuts. At the time, that was like 3-4 times the best day on the web that anyone else could ever have. It was like magic. And it turns out, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And anyways, the platforms all cut the thresholds down slow. I think it was like 200. Twitter went from 1,000 a day to 200 a day. And the system didn't work the same at 1/5 the volume. We'd have had to make 5 times the accounts. It screwed up the sort of software overhead that we had, and we were not able to recover from that. We literally died overnight, went from making 100,000 a month to burning 100,000 a month in one day, and we ran out of money real fast and died. And in the ashes of that, that was a bad beat. I went from being the happiest guy in LA to like the saddest and most embarrassed. And all my wonderful team members, we all did disperse, built an agency out of that. Do you remember that? It was called execute.la. It was only for a year. And I was like, well, shoot, we did a lot of stuff right. God. And I remember talking to an accelerator in LA called Amplify, and they were working with a lot of startups. And I was like, we know the right stuff to do. We did it kind of wrong, a little careless. Okay. But like this actions on social, it works. And so we built an agency out of it, charging 10 times as much with humans doing less than the thresholds and being more careful. And so we built a growth marketing agency, 2016, the year of 2016, and it worked great. And so we had, a couple dozen clients and it was an agency. And we weren't building new tech. And I didn't like being an agency. I wanted to go back into building tech again. And that was the next thing after Vitamin and then Execute LA. But I'd tell you that whole long story because Stanify is the continuation of what Vitamin and Execute were, my 2 projects 10 years ago. Right. Because I've been thinking about this space for more like 15 from Brand Center days. Like this is my life's work coming into by now. It's not some new, I'm just doing this now, working on this. Nope. I've been thinking about this space since the beginning of social mobile with the brands and then startups and all that. Like,
that's a good pause right there real quick, because that's a really great not stopping point, but that's a great place for me to underscore to the team who I've been really espousing the idea of running recursive feedback loops on anything you want to grow. Like what we talk about is how if given a closed feedback loop and given the right types of stimulus over and over and over again, right? The more you feed in, the more insight you get out, the more you apply that to yourself, the better or more expansive you become, the more data you put back into the loop, and on and on and on. So what you just illustrated was an example on a more macro scale, right? Of how you built a closed feedback loop on this one particular topic. Sure, it might have like petered out or died a little bit during your Gigster years, but now when you came back and you started working on Stanify, you're picking right back up, you're expanding that loop again, and you're actually growing as a person. Similar in the Gary Vee days when I worked with him, I mean, he launched an agency called Grape Story, which was about Vine influencers back in the day. And you would have thought that like the shuttering of Grape Story when Vine was killed by Twitter would have been the end of that experience. But then TikTok came along and was essentially the extenuation of Vine. It was basically Vine, but for, like a little bit more on steroids and with an interest graph attached to it. And then, of course, if you were good at making Vines 5 years previous to that, you could easily apply that skill set into the world of TikTok, and you saw tons of old ex-Vine stars becoming TikTok stars. So anyway, just wanted to pause there and just let the team know that what Hank just described to you is a meta loop or a larger size loop for his career.
It is, agree. And the way you framed it is worth talking about for a second. Being successful in business, just in general. There's a bunch of different types of businesses. We've talked about agencies or like marketplaces and SaaS and AI, whatever. Same principle applies, especially in the startup world. In the startup world, the only two things you need to do are build software and talk to customers. That's it for the first year or two of your business. And I've done 5, 6 different startups, raised money, put a team together, build software, talk to customers, because that minimizes the learning loop speed. And it's all about just learning and learning what works and what doesn't, and little tiny failures. Fail forward faster. And if you do other stuff in there, account management and these things and this and like corp dev and all that, not in a startup. Build software, talk to customers, rebuild, talk, rebuild, talk, rebuild, talk. And all of a sudden you get to the success faster. That was a slower process and expensive up until like a year ago. You would have to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars and have 3-4 engineers that would take 3-4 months to be building features. And the faster they could take 3-4 months down to 1 month or 2. Wow. Now it's like 1
minutes.
hour.
It's minutes.
It's insane. The learning process of feedback and learning, those loops are super tight, which means now, like literally everything is possible at the speed of thinking and learning. Never been a more exciting time to be building anything in business, because the learning and the building, the loops are like tiny. And every day is like a year's worth of productivity. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. So that's exciting. It's also like daunting, because, man, I read recently that software engineers, who some people were thinking, oh, they're out of business now, we can just vibe it up. It's like, nope. Now they're 100 times more productive, and they're working more hours than ever now, because they're in this like jubilee. Like they're what do they call it? There's like a vampire vibe vamps or something. There's this term that's going around where people are getting like 4 hours of sleep a night because they can make so much. They're so excited. Anyways, it's a very exciting time.
I saw
learning is what it's all about.
Yeah, I would have assumed that engineers would have been hit pretty hard because of how much the vibe coders could actually take over what they do. But then I saw most recently a statistic or a graphic that said 8 of the top 10 universities that place graduates within the first 6 months. Guess where they are? They're all polytechnic institutes: Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Purdue, and all that kind of stuff. So engineers are still doing pretty well in 2026.
The ones that are having the hardest time are the mid-level, like 4 years, 5 years in right now, where they've been used to making more money, and they're not super senior to be an architect of entire systems, and they're not junior enough to be okay with half the salary. That mid market of engineers, there's a glut there, there's a challenge. I don't know what the solution is really. That's the part that's going to have a lot of like displacement. I don't know if that means the jobs go away, but it'll change. You might have 10 times the amount of work put on you, work and output. And that's all happening in real time. It's really hard to see. My team, for example, we're about a third the size engineer count wise than we would have been had we been doing software development in the old way, 2-3 years ago, and then of course 10 years ago. We're a third the size. There's a job signal for you right there. Like, we don't need as many engineers personally.
Right. To talk about this crew of people here, they're, like I mentioned before, you've got a handful of folks in this room. A lot of them are business owners in their own right. They're startup founders, they're consultants, things of that nature. From your perspective, how does a product like Stanify kind of intercept their thinking, intercept their world? How does it come into play? Yeah. How could it make what they do better, stronger, stickier, forth?
Yep. A great framing that helps a lot is with Stanify. What we do basically, we use AI to help businesses engage with their audiences on social media in the comments and DMs. We allow, through the official APIs with permission from the platforms, doing it right this time. It's the first thing we did in the first month of the business. Go to Meta, go to Google, say, are you okay with this? You're not going to kill me, are you? And no, they said, oh, this is great. You're helping businesses engage with their audiences in the brand voice at scale. Yes, please. Here, we support you. We have support from all the major platforms, all of them. You authenticate your social accounts with Stanify, and we instantly go read everything you've ever written. If you're an established brand of years and years or 100 years, we're working with some big Fortune 500s. We go read everything you've ever written. We become your best trained employee ever in 19 seconds. We get everything that you would train a community manager or a social media manager on.
Is that like being like the Claude design of the comment world?
Yes, that's a good metaphor. I should steal that and use it. Love it. Yes, we literally get trained up instantly and become your best team member for community, social, and community management. Not content. We're not making posts and we're not making videos yet. But like right now, it's what is in your commentary that we could come in and be you at scale, your brand voice, and allow you to then interact with every customer in exactly the way the customer wants to be interacted with, because we detect the intent in a comment. Are they looking for support? Are they looking to purchase? Are they just having a good time, wanted to say something nice? Are they in a bad mood? Whatever. We can detect all of that at PhD level understanding, and then be you as the brand voice in the reply. And we can do it automatically, autopilot. We have that as a feature. Most of our customers don't do that. We draft the reply in a universal inbox to Stanify across all of your socials. You'll see the comment and the reply that we drafted in your brand voice as a suggestion. And we're really good at those. Let's call that 98%, 99% accuracy. And you're like, oh, wow, yeah. Post, edit a word here or there, post. That's the motion for our users is human in the loop. Remember the end of that loop. The end judgment is on your team usually for these bigger brands to say, yes, I approve those to go out. We're really just doing 99% of the work instead of 100. But that's the motion for the engagement part, replying to the comment or the DM. You know, if someone's saying like for purchase intent, we detect the intent and we can have the link ready that would be to purchase your product, even with the 10% discount, whatever you want to have automated as a workflow, we have that. But what we detect is purchase intent. And as you guys probably know, on social, it's not obvious sometimes. People don't go, I would like to purchase this now. That's not what they say in a comment. They say, this would be great for my sister. Or like, man, 2 more paychecks, that thing is mine. Like those kind of signals. And so we catch those. Send them a DM automatically. Hey, how's 10% off for your sister's sound? Wink, wink. And the link, which works like crazy. That's the kind of stuff that Stanify does for our customers on the engagement side. There's a whole other side of the coin, though, which is safety. And that's something that I got to be candid, surprised us a little at how big of a deal it is. Safety. Stanify also identifies negative. Well, we can index any kind of comment. We can tell you what it is. We just know, our language model knows that is a negative comment, someone trying to do damage with foul language and underhanded, subversive, whatever. Like we can tag, we have all these tagging structures, and we can remove unwanted content from your comments. Remove meaning we hide it from your feed. And all of the platforms have this feature. All the major social platforms. Most businesses don't know this. Hiding a comment doesn't delete the comment. Right. Hiding just the angry person doesn't know that it was hidden. They still see it in their feed when they open up your page, and their followers see it. That's their stance, but no other strangers or other potential customers see it in the public at all. So it's a very elegant way to diffuse a situation. Angry person doesn't know it was hidden. It just gets less engagement because not a lot of people see it. We can hide unwanted commentary instantly in its scale. And it turns out at the enterprise level, that was the gateway drug. Is safety is such a huge deal to like the Unilevers of the world that they don't even engage in social. And this was the big set is like what we found over our first year in business here is at the enterprise, they look at social like a just a liability zone, and they're putting the minimum effort just to keep it at bay. Just don't start any fights or fires, no media firestorms. And what a shame and what an opportunity, because social is the one-to-one conduit with every single customer of yours and the opportunity to engage and resonate and make a personal relationship with them. instead of an obligation zone that's treated like this bunch of noise just to keep the pitchforks and the torches. We're turning that into like the circuit board of your business. Like every single customer gets its own relationship with you, so awareness and sales and retention and loyalty. And, all of that is all can run through social now because you have yourself, your brand available to show up at scale. We help you be more you to everyone.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because I think there's something that's underlying in that, and it has to do with posting content and being afraid of what's going to evolve in the comment section, but it's also preventative to posting in the first place, because it's just general fear. I call it catastrophic thinking. It's like fear of what if, and you have it in your. And I've been through enough PR, emergencies where we've had to involve the legal departments, we've had to involve all the stakeholders, and we've had to like literally have high stakes, chess matches trying to figure out what to say next and stuff like that. Before a lot of the platforms were developing hide features and stuff like that. I get why brands and people are afraid to post. They're afraid of that inevitable 5 comments or the troll that's going to come on and make them feel like absolute dog shit. They just don't do it. And then they leave a whole ocean of possibility at their doorstep, or they leave it ripe for competitors to come in and really steal the attention that they could be getting because of their own catastrophic thinking. All right, we got a question from coming in from the audience. One question I have is on the safety side. Is there a direct-to-consumer side to the safety, i.e. a parent who wants to help monitor their kid's account?
It's an interesting question. The short answer is probably. We're not there yet. Let's answer a different question to try and address that question. What we're doing is able to take some thousands of unstructured data points. That's a complicated way to say just comments and information that's there. What's here? What are all of the, let's take your example, like text messages and comments and DMs of my kid. What are all of them about? And we can almost instantly break down this many random chatter about trivial teenage stuff. This much is about romance. 20%. 10% is malicious in some way. And here's 3 different types of malicious. And then 5% is like porn. Watch out. And we could do that. We aren't in, as our business, we aren't in I'm trying to think how to say this. We've been focused on business pages, which is Meta for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Reddit, YouTube. All of them have given us permission to do this on business pages and help the businesses engage with their audiences more, because that's what the platforms want. They want businesses in the game. Meta has told us directly, when you help the businesses engage, which 90% of comments go unanswered, you get that number down, more people come on to our platform, and time on app is what they call that, is our key metric as a business. The more people spend time on Facebook, Instagram, the more ads we can show them and the more money we make as a platform. You guys are the time on app company. We like it. We approve you. That's why we have such friendly treatment from the platforms. On the personal side, what a kid is doing and being able to monitor that, it's a different set of permissions we would need for different reasons that the platforms may or may not want in there. I don't know the answer about that part yet. That would be the headwinds that we might run into.
And real quick, just a point of clarification, because I'm teaching you all how to build agentic workflows, don't get the idea that you're going to be able to just flood the zone with your own chat bots and start solving all the world's problem. There is clearances that happen with these networks that Hank kind of described. They're not going to want to have like hundreds of thousands of chat bots fly into their API and start doing the same stuff that Stanify is doing. So there is going to be a need for enterprise level tools like Stanify, even into the near future when everybody becomes vibe coders and stuff like that. They're going to police their brand first and foremost.
And let me double down on that, double click on it. We are in process with LinkedIn right now. We have big Fortune 100s asking for help because LinkedIn is a very important channel for them. We're seeing firsthand front lines with the LinkedIn product team who's trying to get the approvals with us for each part of the API. Can we read comments? Can we reply to them? Can we draft them over here? Can we do this? Can we whatever? We have to go through each one of these. It's taking forever because they're being real careful. Because LinkedIn, for example, is really frustrated with the slop problem that's happening. I'm sure you guys have all seen it. Someone using some ChatGPT, whatever, to generate a comment and throw it onto a post that someone else did. And it just restates the post with no new thinking in the comment, which is wasted time for everyone. And then I read your stupid ass slop comment and it didn't bring any value. And LinkedIn really doesn't like that. On a personal page, they're going to police the heck out of that. And all of the automation tools that would do what Vitamin was doing in 2015 on LinkedIn, grow your audience, do this stuff. They're starting to kill those things, just like they did with Vitamin a decade ago. Heads up to everyone that you really don't want to be too fast and loose in the automation part, because what we're doing with Stanify is going in the front door, white flag, getting the permissions to allow this to happen in safe, constructive, healthy manners. Can't say that enough. And that is only going to increase in how the world works. The platforms will police this stuff and it will do damage to your business if you don't respect what the platforms want. I think we're at the right place at the right time. Having had that experience 10 years ago, I don't know that we would be able to do what we're doing with Stanify today the way we have if I hadn't had that bad beat and learning at the time. We would have been more fast and loose ourselves and probably killed our own business, honestly. It's a time where I think the companies that are working with existing brands is a good signal that something's going right, because we've done the hard work in the background to make sure that everybody's safe. And that's important today.
Okay, real quick before we wrap up and I start doling out the homework assignments, I want to spend the next like 5 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes, depending on how many people want to volunteer. I want to pull up a couple of guests and spotlight them to kind of have me and you really analyze their situation and try to figure out how to turbocharge their comment section behavior. The first one, he doesn't know I'm going to call him up, but I see him like paying very close attention and taking notes right now. So I feel like he's earned the stage and the spotlight. That's Chris. Chris, Jeremy's going to spotlight you real quick. Come on up and have a chat with me and Hank. We're just going to have a conversation about your business right now. Sound good?
Let's roll.
Sorry, okay. I love it.
Give Hank a little bit of a 2 cents on what the business is. Give him the whole, I mean, you don't have to talk about your previous employer if you're not comfortable doing that, but give him a sense of like your career in the industry that you're in and how you're now kind of building out the new business and what that's called. And then we'll start diagnosing how to make, interactions in the comments more sticky for you.
Yeah. Just recently, as of 2 months ago, left a longtime employer and took the leap into entrepreneurship. I'm in the auction space, the liquidation space, and I ran a marketplace that had 5,000 auctions, kind of a regional marketplace. I'm staying in that space, kind of floating a little bit into some tertiary areas right now, but also have one project that's very in that lane that we're launching. As a nutshell, in the auction space. Now I'm going more niche in the vertical, the marketplace that I'm launching with some partners, but also doing a lot of research on what's coming. And as Gary Vee's brought up a lot, and he's said this for years, the live selling, the whatnot, like that is coming in a hard way for the old school people in my industry. Like as I'm thinking through this whole thing, it's like more market research than anything of like, okay, what are buyers actually looking for? And where is this going to go in 3 to 5 years? So I'm tying a lot of things into this intro. But
yeah, that's interesting. And real quick, Hank, before you get your meat hooks into Chris, one thing that I didn't mention a ton of, although I did give you guys an example from the Deborah Pagani example, other people's comments are definitely a place where you can be creating some very sticky action for yourself. In fact, when I used to run the 4Ds, which was a mastermind for Gary Vee, I used to get customers a lot by just going into his videos and the hundreds of thousands of people that would comment on them. And I would just start bringing in information about the mastermind and stuff like that. I would just basically create click funnels and siphon people off of his attention he was building for himself and direct them over to the landing page where we could convert customer interest. That's aside from what Hank is about to dive into, like you should be on Whatnot and TikTok Shop and TikTok Live and all those different places, actively mining conversations around your niche. Go ahead, Hank.
Yeah, for sure. A couple questions on the project that you're working on now, or the space that you see the opportunity to be. Let's help me understand if it's like live commentary during an auction and understanding what data is there in real time and why that's important, or is it more like studying what just happened in that auction to be able to do better on the next one? Like, where do you see the opportunity being that we should talk about here? Happy to.
Yeah. My industry as a whole is it lags 3 to 5 years technology wise. So primarily we just did the timed online auctions. It's got a timer. In 2 weeks, it's going to close. Now we're going to 9-second auctions for, whatnot. That's a pretty big leap there into what this generation is, how they're buying versus this one. So it's almost like I don't plan to jump one way or the other. I think it's merging the two, like different flavors for different people and in a thoughtful way to do it. That's kind of the direction I'm leaning.
Yep. And in a fantasy land, let's start there. Fantasy land. What is the magic that you kind of perceive being possible now that maybe wasn't possible a year or two ago, that is, if you were to close the lag, the 2-3 year lag, what is, now and next that you want to bring into the world that's not there yet? Maybe signal that you're seeing from whatnot, these kind of things. Like, what's the new something that hasn't been possible before?
I just think the tech advancement and how quickly you can build these things, that what would cost you $500,000 is now, that's been diminished quite greatly. So your ability to move and then have the expertise to actually speak to the old way and tie that into the new way and make it not such a quantum leap, more of a little baby step to like.
Is there a way to think about pulling together? And Hank, you probably would have great insight on this on the two-sided marketplace side of things. Like, I wonder if inside of like a whatnot, when people are watching auctions take place and then comments are unfolding, is there a way to like create subsequent auctions?
Oh, frozen again. Go ahead, Chris. Start with that.
I don't know where he was going with that. It's like kind of like mine,
based on the things people want inside of the comments.
Hold on, lost you for about 15 seconds. Create subsequent auctions, and then we lost the rest, and we had to imagine what.
Yeah, sorry. My thought was like, I wonder, and you'd know this better because you've spent time as a purveyor or somebody that's watching the auctions as a potential commenter. Like, are the comments such where maybe future auctions spawn from these comments and your company could be the host of said auctions, or you could be the one that kind of rapidly iterates off of the ideas people have in the comments? And maybe there's even buyers and sellers in the comments and you're kind of playing matchmaker.
Yeah. And I mean, that's already kind of happening in the old way where people can publicly comment. It's just, again, been very slow. As far as being a successful marketplace, full disclosure, and like building confidence and trust in a buyer. And the best way you can do that, in my opinion, is through people asking questions and you answering it honestly and showing it to them in real time rather than a picture. I think there's a lot of opportunity there to build that trust, which is crucial, especially in the niche that I'm getting into, through whether it's a timed sale or it's someone going live and selling. Like, I think there's good opportunity there in real time to answer those questions quickly, show them what they want to see. It's almost a virtual inspection aspect of it before it sells. It's all tying the old and the new kind of together to see some success.
That's kind of what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking about is what is possible now that we do for literally each customer of ours is we build this corpus of information. It's not a better word yet for it, that allows a customer to get what they want pretty much automatically whenever they ask something. For a brand or a business, if you have frequently asked questions, upload them into Stanify with the question and the answer in any format. It doesn't matter. It's CSV, Word doc, PDFs, we get all kinds of stuff. But then if someone asks any question remotely similar to that one that you sent us, we can answer it, or at least draft the answer right there, what you just described. Very much so. It is now quite possible. I mean, we're doing it. If there's an auction about to happen or happening, and anyone has any question about anything that there is an answer for, then they can get that answer instantly. And it doesn't matter if there's 1 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people on the auction, they would all get their answers. And then if there wasn't an answer to it, we catch those and send them to the human, and the human gets in there and does it. So you literally get 100 or 1,000 or 100,000 times the coverage of information seeking in real time. And apply that to auctions. Would that help someone be a more confident bidder in the moment? I mean, almost surely. That's absolutely there. And if that's not happening in the auction space, that's a great unfair advantage. I would imagine it's coming into these platforms like Whatnot pretty quickly, or it will be. But that's the area right now that's totally possible.
Hank, tell me and Chris about what your guys' perspective on AEO is, knowing that people are starting to ask ChatGPT and Claude more questions, and brands obviously need to be able to stand up like hardcore FAQs that match all those questions if they're going to be seen by people that are searching on LLMs. This strikes me as a particular area in the ARC space where a lot of questions are being asked, and a brand like GemBid in Chris's world could be ahead of the curve if they really pay attention to AEO.
Absolutely. The whole world of SEO, as we've known it forever, search engines and how they work, is fundamentally changed already. Like, it's not changing, it's changed. A ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude, any of them, Grok, they look at the internet in a different way than Google has in the past. It's like page rank, page indexing. Can't wait to tell our kids it's going to happen. We used to have to type into Google and it would say like 65 million results in 0.002 seconds. And you only ever looked at page one, and you only ever looked at the top three. And even then you're like, God, and you got to do the work to get all that's gone, completely gone. You just say, hey, what's this? What's the bet? Give me the top three of these, whatever. And then the language model goes and gets that for you. Where they get that from is vastly different than what Google's rules were in the past of like page ranking and backlinks and all this stuff. It's way different. It turns out number one is Reddit. Number one source is Reddit for every language model except for Perplexity. I'll tell you that in a second. Most of the tangible, recent, likely to be high quality information is on Reddit. Is all of the platform, all the foundational models have decided that. If you're not on Reddit with information about your business, you're immediately behind the game of results in an agentic engine searches. Reddit is important in a different way than ever before right now. The reason that's happened is Reddit is the hardest to automate your presence there. Reddit does that on purpose. It needs to be authentic, which is why the language models love it. So Reddit's number one. Number two, though, is YouTube video transcripts. Again, because it's hard to make those fast and loose and crappy. The quality of the information is higher there. The language models like that. Perplexity, that's the number one data source they pull from, and Reddit's number two. But for all the rest, it's mostly Reddit's number one, and YouTube video transcripts is number two. And then it trails off into a bunch of different areas. And I'm sure we could find, it might be good to do like the best study of what those different sources are, the other 10 or 20 of them, and ranked. Here's the new thing though, the newest, the language models, the average age of a piece of content that they source to give you the information is 90 days. And 6 months ago, it was 120 days. You're going to see that the age of the content is going to come down, and it's only going to be pulling stuff from the past week or so, which means every business needs to constantly be out there because it makes better relevant answers if stuff is contemporary. That whole world is right now brand new. And
also it breathes new life, and it also breathes new life into former concepts. You're cranking out a bunch of long form videos in a 90-day span, and then that counter is going to kind of roll over. You need to re-release that content or come up with a different version of it if it's a pillar anchor of your brand. You can't just pin it to the top of a feed like you can on Instagram. You physically need to go re-release an old video, pull it off of your archive, re-release it as a world premiere again, or create a similar concept in a new way that still has the same metadata or same description and titles and stuff like that. Well, titles would be hard, but same description.
And the language models, the foundational models are getting much better at understanding what's even there. Just a re-release, it might work for a while now, but fast forward eons into the future, a whole year, which is like 100 years. You will need to make it newer with information that isn't the same as before, because they'll probably compare the two. And you literally have to be like very authentically relevant every day. And it's exhausting to think about. But the world that we have coming is like, there's no, we made a bunch of pages and blog posts and they're backlinking to our site and now we rank real high. And you kind of sit back like this. Nope. You have to be on in relevant ways all the time now.
Are there any automations in Reddit that you can use to your, because it's a different tact. Like you can't go in selling, right? You gotta earn the expertise. Otherwise you're gonna get flagged. Like you said, they want it to be relevant. Are there things that people are doing on an automated basis to, answer in their brand voice, but not selling type thing?
Short answer is no. And the longer answer is there are some that keep trying and they keep getting killed. Reddit's business is keeping that off their platform. It literally, their business is better the less that's there. We have a C-level executive from Reddit as advisor of Stanify who has said to us, former C-level, he's not there anymore. He's like, hey, Reddit's different. Let me help you help Reddit. And where we're going to land with Reddit, it looks like, is on moderator tools to help a moderator of a channel control negativity and unwanted stuff. If they have a big subreddit that's got thousands, like we would help keep it clean and safe. But on the brand side, they really don't want, even on brands. Like it looks like LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, they don't mind that we're helping brands be more you at scale and all that. Reddit is showing signals. So they're like, no. Let's talk about moderator tools. Reddit is probably going to be the last bastion of be authentic and be in there. And what I've seen is agencies that will literally be the human for you and do it as human. And they already know, because by the way, you can't just, I'm a human and go ahead and post 30 times in an hour with your fingers. Reddit still doesn't like that activity. There are human teams that understand the limits and they're always moving to the moving target. I'd recommend looking at those and not putting your own automation in on that.
Cool. Well, let's wrap here. Hank, thank you for joining us. Couple quick notes as we wrap up the session. I'm not going to make the homework like overly burdensome. What I want each of you doing between now and next week's group meeting is I want you to go find a comment to turn into a beta loops. That could be done a couple different ways. You could post a piece of content that's super engaging that gets, 10, 20, 30 different comments on top of it. And you could take those comments into your DMs and start creating conversations with people off of them. Or you could go out on the internet, on Instagram, YouTube, wherever you want to go, and you could start engaging with the comment board of other creators and turn those conversations into action and momentum for the brand. And that's where I want you to be right now, is taking a little bit of your time over the next week to really go out and create some momentum for yourself, either on your own content or on somebody else's content, and see where that nets out. It could be a $5,000+ customer of yours. It could be just a relationship that you forge that might turn into future get-togethers or dinners, or being able to partner with somebody on something down the road. I'm not going to really be hyper specific on what I want you to get out of it. I just want momentum for you and your business. And then one other thing, Hank, you are welcome back here every single week, similar to Justin waved to the group. You were our speaker last week. What we're going to do here is we're going to create compound effects. Every speaker that comes in is welcome to join future episodes and be able to interact with all of our future speakers as well. And we'll just kind of keep rolling that way and try to build the snowball effect there. And then if anybody wants access to this episode again, you know where it'll be. It'll be up in the Circle community. It'll also be live on YouTube, public on YouTube 2 weeks from now. And then Hank, if people want to get in touch with you or follow you, where do they go? What's your email? Like, how do you want them interacting with you?
For sure. I'm Hank@Stanify.ai. That's it. Real simple. And happy to talk with any and everyone on this call about your business and really understand what some of your challenges and opportunities that you see are. It's great talking for a sec, Chris. We can dig into it later. Happy to do that. The company is Stanify.ai. And 2 things real quick to leave with. Thank you for having me, Joe, by the way. This was great. Number 1, we're in learning mode more than like money mode right now as a company. We have a bunch of enterprise traction and that's fine, but we really want to understand not enterprise, mid-market, SMB, early stage companies, different industries. And by way of learning mode, we don't need to make a bunch of money with new types of customers. That's me saying to you guys, if anybody has a need and we're like, oh, we can help, let's do that and not charge. Have a month or 2 or whatever with Stanify, because I'd rather have the learning in a friendly environment like this that applies to a whole industry that we're not in yet. It's like, if there's a way to work together, don't worry about money. Let's just learn together. And number 2, though, just to keep conversations from happening over and over that don't need to, we don't make engagement from posts that don't have engagement. We don't make new comments. We get this a lot. Hey, I post all the time and nobody's commenting. Can you help me? We don't do that. We don't do that at all. You got to learn how to be interesting and maybe a little controversial. You mentioned earlier, Joe, like tension. Find the tension and talk about it. The internet is full of boring stuff. Don't be that. Be interesting. Take a risk. Start some conversations, because keeping it safe is, we got that. Go out and be interesting. Anyways, happy to talk about helping manage existing community, not growing yours. But really, we're in learning mode. So hopefully, there's a lot of ways that we can help any of you guys.
Yeah, you need to grow your content or your community. You need to make it interesting. You can come to me for that. I can definitely help you out with that stuff. But then Hank's world is about mining the gold mine that is your comment section. One person that's on this call that I haven't had a chance to say hi to is Austin. Austin, meet Hank. I think the two of you might want to chat at some point this summer. Hank, just so you know, Austin's building out this really cool financial tool that's going to be on one of the stock exchanges in the next 90 days. I think his brand will probably have a lot of people asking questions. I think that's something that, Austin might want to develop a plan for how to attack the comment sections and how to use AI to really turn that into insight in future business as well.
Thank you for that. On that, adjacent, Andrew maybe made a half joke in the comments about intros. We love intros because they work like crazy. When someone's like, oh, my friend's over at Activision, he's the VP marketing. I think they would probably like this for the gaming brands. We had that happen. He introed VP marketing Activision. We closed Activision for Call of Duty socials. Like, intros work. We're happy to give rev share for that, because that's one of the only things that works in enterprise. By the way, whole other conversation later, we have found personally, email doesn't work at all. Like, we've sent thousands of emails to the right stakeholder at a brand talking about the problems on social and showing our enterprise logos and giving them a free trial offer. Zeros across the board, which is astounding to me because I've been doing email marketing for 15 years and it works. It doesn't work today. I think email is getting burned to the ground by AI with all of this easy, cold email enriched AI crap. I don't know about you guys, but my inbox is full of those and I don't even open them anymore. Whole new world here. How do we grow our business? Humans to humans is actually the best one. Big yes, by the way, on that.
Awesome. Well, I know we're out of time, so I'll let you guys go. Thanks everybody for joining, and let's get into the comments and let's talk about how to grow a business.
Thanks again. Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.